This railroad is run basically with the purpose, the mission of showing people how this little railroad, this 2-foot gauge railroad, that at one time had 58 miles of track, affected the lives of the people in the Sheepshead Valley. And every farmer shipped his extra milk and his eggs down to Boston on this train. They'd had an agent down in Wiscasset that could sell eggs. There was a creamery in Wiscasset that took the milk and cream. There was a grain elevator down there. There were wharves down there that the railroad owned. You could transship down to Boston with the schooners. So there was all kinds of traffic that went down this railroad. It never made a lot of money. It was originally called the Wiscasset and Quebec, and they went bust in 1901. And they changed the name to the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington. It didn't make it to Waterville or Farmington either, but it plied on until 1933 and made a little bit of money in the teens and the 20s for its then owner, Mrs. Carson Peck, the widow of the vice president of Woolworths, who owned it. And she got all of the family's money out of the railroad before she sold it back to the towns. The railroad was never officially abandoned, and it was kept by that owner, who sold off pieces as people asked to buy them so that he could pay the taxes. That's why today we have so much railroad, 24 miles, that still can be used. Now, we don't have continuous pieces everywhere. There are some pieces that we have to lease or buy from different owners that the railroad reverted to when it was sold. But our long-term goal, which has been specified in a long-term plan that our board of directors has just approved, is to get about 3.5 miles up to Route 218, just below head tide. And at that time, we'll make a decision in our next plan whether we're going to continue on across Route 218 and get to the head tide village, which was the 3rd station in Alna, or whether we'll go south and go towards Wiscasset. So we look to a very bright future. We've got all kinds of plans for improving our facilities and for having good things to see for people that come to see us. And we hope that you'll come and see us. So do come up to Alna and ride our little train. It's a half-an-hour ride. It's up through the woods. It's a beautiful ride. It's a lot of fun. Everybody enjoys what they do here, and we hope you'll come and visit us. It's just a wonderful place to come. So we hope to see you soon at Sheepshead Station. Hi, I'm Alan Fisher, and I'm the membership secretary of the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington Railway Museum in Alna, Maine. We currently are the 3rd largest railroad museum by membership in North America. We have over 1,100 members in 44 states and 8 foreign countries. About 350 of those volunteers find their way here to donate at least a day's labor each year. And we get at our annual work weekends, which we have on the last weekend of April and the Columbus Day work weekend, we get between 75 and 100 volunteers who come to build railroad the old-fashioned way and ballast our tracks. So we have an awful lot of fun. All of the food for those weekends is free to our volunteers, and it's really a great feeling of camaraderie with everybody. The museum was started in 1989 by Harry Percival, who at that time had, a couple of years previous, had bought the charter of the former Wiscasset and Quebec Railroad. The Wiscasset and Quebec was originally chartered in the 1850s to go between Wiscasset and Quebec. And when Harry got the information that he purchased from the last owner of the railroad, he found out that he owned over 28 miles of the original right-of-way of the railroad. And today, there are still 24 miles of that the Wiscasset and Quebec owns. So we lease our property from the Wiscasset and Quebec. The WW&F, Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington Railway Museum, is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. And as such, we raise money mostly through our members and friends. We run on a budget of just a little over $100,000 a year, and we have an awful lot of equipment. The museum is getting close to having assets of about $1 million.
The next ride leaves at 1:15.
We are supported mostly by our members and friends. We have received a few small grants. We receive grants almost every year from the Amherst Railroad Society of Amherst, Massachusetts. We have received a couple of very small grants from the MBNA Foundation. And we do receive matching funds from some of the big companies like ExxonMobil and Johnson & Johnson and those companies. So we're always appreciative of that. As of yet, we have not gone after large grants. Someday in the future we hope to do that, but everything pretty much is from members and friends of the museum. And our entire budget is either ticket sales or museum store sales or contributions from our members and friends. And so far we have no debt. We are debt free, and we are managing our property. As things come up, we get them done. And it's been very successful. The last train that ran on this railroad had a derailment. And it was just left there. It was never picked up. And that locomotive, number 8, the cowcatcher, our founder, as a little kid, tried to haul it up on the railroad and take it home, but his father wouldn't let him because it didn't belong to him. Well, somebody else did take it home, and a couple of years ago, it turned up in Uncle Henry's, and we bought it, and it's in the museum. We also have people that go through their barns occasionally and find old milk cans with the owner's number and the railroad's number on it, or oil cans from the railroads. We've got some lanterns that were given by some of the members. We had a lantern somebody found in an estate sale for $35, and it was sold to somebody, and we managed to buy it for $200. It's amazing that 70 years after this railroad ran, we're still finding things that people are bringing to us for our museum. And we've got some wonderful old pictures of the railroad also. We run trains on Saturdays and Sundays, and between Memorial Day and Columbus Day, we run steam trains with a 1904 Vulcan steam engine that was made in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, which was originally in the sugarcane fields of Louisiana and was brought up to Edaville to run on the 2-foot gauge railroad and the Pleasure Island in Wakefield, Massachusetts. We bought it about 10 years ago, and we completely overhauled it, and it runs beautifully. We have another engine that's even older, an 1891 Portland Company locomotive, which was built for the Sandy River Railroad and actually ran on this railroad, the WW&F, in 1933. It was stored in a barn in Connecticut for almost 70 years, and the owner of that locomotive has leased it to us on a long-term lease. We are currently repairing the boiler, getting a brand new boiler for that locomotive, and within a year or two, that locomotive shall also be running here. We lease a passenger car from the main narrow gauge down in Portland, our coach number 3, which is the only existing coach from this railroad. And it's a beautiful coach that still has flip seats, and it was made by the Jackson and Sharp Company in Wilmington, Delaware, the company that made all the big railroads cars. The freight shed where we have the museum store and the exhibits is a replica of the Weeks Mills Freight House. And that building still exists in Weeks Mills. It was saved because it was used for cattle for many years, and it still stands in Weeks Mills. The only original building that's here is the last station that was here at Sheepskin. And that is now used as for its original purpose, was as a track shanty. We also have a caboose that we here at the museum built from 1901 plans, and because it had never been built before, we call it original. We built it in 1998. Do come up to Alna and ride our little train. It's a half-an-hour ride. It's up through the woods. It's a beautiful ride, and I think you can close your eyes when you're on this train and think you're back to the turn of the century before. The station at Alna Center, which is very similar to the one at Sheepskin, is a replica of what was at Alna Center. The walls of that station are still up in the woods up near that location. So we've been very successful. We know that there are 3 or 4 of the northerly stations still around that are homes, private homes. And there is a track shanty from Head Tide that's used as a shed by somebody at Head Tide. So that's about all that's left of the original buildings here.
Goes up over the hill and then down.
44, 49 across the two subdivisions.
There's
I
Gabriel.
rode that thing across.
Hello, Gabriel.
I'm going to see.
No, you stay right here. We got to go take our camera right. No, no, Willie. Stay right here. Don't fuss. These guys are very nice to give you the camera.
6 feet.
Right?
Hey, hang on.
You guys are making it
3 feet. 2, 1.
I got his soda. Watch out for a minute.
Yep, come on up.
I'm coming up.
Here. Your hair.
Thanks. Come here. You mean you're one to see the engine drive motor?
Is there someone out there? Yeah. Well, the fellow with the video camera.
Yeah!
We have another coach that we bought from Edaville in the last couple of years and have renovated. And we have 2 flat cars, one of which was the last flat car on the railroad and picked up with horses all of the main line rail from head tide to Wiscasset. We have an original boxcar that was also starred down in Connecticut, boxcar 309 from this railroad. So except for one piece of equipment that's down at the Booth Bay Railway Village, down in Booth Bay, Maine, we have all the equipment that's left from this railroad.
Go. White stuff. Get it? Yeah. I'll be here next Sunday with mine. No, we doing it then. So I'll have my outfits. Be brave. It won't be 30 miles an hour, right? I don't think I could do 30, but maybe 10 or 15.
The car shop that we have, the large car shop, is kind of not a replica, but a 1/3 size representation of what was at Wiscasset.
No.
So we hope to see you soon at Sheepscot Station. Thank you very much.